The wind howled across the shattered plains of Varian 9, carrying with it the scent of burned soil and ozone. The planet had once been a jewel of green valleys and shimmering lakes, but decades of war had stripped it bare, leaving nothing but ash and silence. Through that silence, a figure crawled through the ruins of a fallen outpost, his breast shallow beneath the weight of a battered helmet. Sergeant Kellen Rowe moved like a ghost, every motion deliberate, every step a calculation between survival and discovery. His rifle, a long-barreled relic of 100 battles, rested against his shoulder as if it were part of his body. He had no need for words. The war had taught him that words were luxuries, noise between moments of stillness. Above him, in the jagged remains of a ridge, another pair of eyes watched through a shimmering visor. The alien sniper, known among his kin as Varak of the Zerthal Legion, adjusted his plasma scope, tracking the faint heat signature of the human below. His species prided itself on precision, believing emotion to be weakness, and yet even Varak felt something foreign stir within him, a flicker of curiosity, or perhaps respect. He had studied the human reports, the tales of a marksman who never missed, whose calm in battle was said to frighten even the coldest machine. To Varak, this was not merely a mission. It was a meeting of legends, one final calculation to determine which species deserved to dominate the ruins of this dying world. Kellen settled against the wreck of an old tank, its hull half buried in sand and time. He scanned the horizon through his cracked scope. The sun bled low, turning the sky into a bruise of red and violet. Through the haze, he caught it, a faint glint like sunlight reflecting off glass. He froze. It was the kind of glint only a scope could make. For a moment, time slowed, and every instinct inside him screamed. He ducked low, heart hammering once, then steadying again as training took over. A sniper knows no panic. Panic kills faster than bullets. He checked his wind gauge, adjusted his scope, and whispered himself, 1,000 meters, give or take. His voice was rough, like gravel scraped across steel. The alien was out there, waiting. He could almost feel the other's focus pressing against his own, a silent duel of willpower stretching across the battlefield. Kellen's finger rested on the trigger, but he didn't fire. Not yet. He had learned long ago that patience was deadlier than aggression. The first to shoot often lost. The first to move gave away the truth of their position. High above, Varak exhaled slowly, his twin heart steady beneath the armor. Through the static of his comms, his commander's voice crackled. Target sighted? Varak did not answer. His focus was absolute. The human's movements were unpredictable, erratic in a way that defied logic. Machines could not replicate it. That was the danger and the fascination. He had killed hundreds of human soldiers, dissected their tactics, and yet this one felt different. It was as if he moved not for orders, not for survival, but for something deeper, something unspoken. Kellen remembered the faces of his unit, men and women who had fallen beside him. Their laughter now echoes in his mind. He had promised them he'd see the war to its end, though no one had defined what that end meant anymore. He tightened his grip on the rifle and focused again through the scope. Across the ravine, heat shimmered, distorting the world like a mirage. He knew someone was watching him, studying him, waiting for the smallest mistake. The wind shifted. Dust rose in waves, scattering light and shadow. Kellen adjusted his position, crawling an inch at a time until his view cleared. Through the dust, a faint outline emerged, a shape barely distinguishable from the rocks, but the slight glimmer of alien alloy betrayed it. His pulse slowed. That was him, the alien sniper, a master at concealment. But even masters bled to the cracks when patience turned to pride. For a long moment, neither moved. Two predators bound by silence, separated by distance yet connected by intent. The world around them faded, the burning sky, the whispering wind, even the ghosts of war. There was only the line between their scopes and the knowledge that only one would walk away. Kellen thought of home, of the mountains he climbed before the war, the smell of pine and rain-soaked earth. Those memories had become distant, but they anchored him now. Humans always found strength in what they'd lost. That was their gift and their curse. He inhaled slowly, the metal of his helmet cooling against his cheek. Across the ravine, Varek's clawed finger tightened around his trigger. His thermal sensors pulse red, target acquired. Yet he hesitated, drawn not by mercy but by fascination. This was no ordinary prey. This was a mirror. The human's breathing matched his own rhythm, as if their instincts were intertwined by some invisible thread. The wind died suddenly, leaving the air eerily still. Both snipers knew that silence meant one thing. It was time. Kellen's lips moved soundlessly, a habit from years of training. Counting seconds, feeling the heartbeat between shots. 1, 2, 3, he moved the barrel slightly, aiming not where the target was, but where it would be. That was how he always won. A low hum vibrated in the distance, the alien's rifle charging its plasma core. Kellen smiled faintly. He could almost hear his old instructor's voice in his head. Let them take the first shot. They'll never take the last. Light flashed. A plasma bolt screamed past, scorching the sand inches from his arm. Kellen didn't flinch. He slid sideways, rolled behind a tank, and steadied his rifle once more. The alien had revealed his position. The game was no longer about searching. It was about waiting. Through the scope, Kellen could see the faint shimmer of heat where the plasma discharge had come from. The storm clouds above began to gather, darkening the landscape in flickering shades of orange and gray. The world seemed to hold its breath with him. 30 seconds, Kellen murmured under his breath. That was how long it would take. One breath, one shot, one truth about what it meant to be human. He steadied his aim, feeling the gravity of the moment. Somewhere across that 1,000-meter stretch, another being mirrored the same tension, the same quiet resolve. And in that suspended stillness, before the storm broke, both snipers understood the same thing, that this was not about species or survival. It was about proving whose soul could endure the silence longer. The shot had not yet been fired, but the war between patience and instinct had already begun. The first shot carved through the air like lightning. A streak of blue plasma hissed past Kellen's position, turning the dirt beside him into molten glass. The blast heat singed his cheek, but he didn't move. He listened to the echo fade, counting the seconds between the next inevitable shot. 1, 2, 3. Another flash burst from the ridge. This one came closer, shredding a piece of the tank's rusted hull. The alien was fast, precise, and relentless, but Kellen had learned something about precision. It was predictable. He shifted slightly, inching to his right, keeping his rifle low against the dirt. Patience wasn't just a skill, it was a weapon. Varek adjusted his optics and recalibrated his targeting lens. The human had vanished from sight, swallowed by the debris. His mandibles twitched with irritation. This was no ordinary opponent. Humans were known for chaos, unrefined, impulsive, but somehow effective. Yet this one was methodical, disciplined. It almost angered him that the stories were true. He had been sent here to erase a legend, and for the first time in his life, he wondered if legends could erase back. The wind began to shift, carrying fine dust across the ravine, distorting the thermal readings. His visor flickered, and the human signal disappeared completely. Kellen watched through the smallest gap in the wreckage, tracing the faint shimmer of plasma residue left behind by the alien's last shot. The Zertho rifles ran hot. They left invisible vapor trails that only a trained eye could catch. He smiled grimly. That's where the bastard was. He remembered his mentor's voice echoing in his head, the same voice that had taught him how to breathe through fear. Don't look for what's there, Ro. Look for what moves wrong. He steadied his breath and aligned his crosshairs toward a cluster of rocks just below the ridge. A soft gust swept the field, kicking up sand, and through the haze, a glint of metal revealed itself. It wasn't much, just a fragment of armor catching stray light, but to Kellen, it was enough. He marked the range, adjusted his scope for wind drift, and exhaled. His finger tensed, then froze. The glint vanished. The alien had moved, not by error, by instinct. They were reading each other now, anticipating thoughts before they formed. Kellen ducked lower, knowing another shot was coming, but none came. The silence was heavier than gunfire. Varek's pulse accelerated. The human was using patience as a shield. It unsettled him. His entire life had been governed by precision, by equations of kill time, by clean mathematical certainty. Yet here, against this lone soldier, all that logic fractured. The human wasn't hiding. He was hunting. Varek felt in the rhythm of the battlefield, in the shifting stillness between shots. He adjusted his breathing, synchronizing it with the wind. His species had perfected sniping through centuries of genetic refinement, but something about this confrontation felt primal, almost spiritual. He could sense the human watching him, not as prey, but as an equal. Minutes passed like hours. The sky dimmed as storm clouds rolled over Varia 9, turning the battlefield into a muted wasteland of dust and shadow. Static crackled through Kellen's comms, but he ignored it. He no longer needed orders. All that mattered was his duel, 1,000 meters of death and destiny between them. He replayed every movement the alien had made, every angle of the ridge, every shimmer of light. The mind games were everything now. Kellen reached into his vest and pulled out a small reflective shard from a broken drone. Carefully, he placed it a few feet to his left, angled toward the ridge. It was a simple trick, but simplicity had always been humanity's secret advantage. He waited. Through his scope, Varek saw the reflection flicker and took the bait. His plasma rifle fired again, striking the shard dead center. The light shattered. Kellen moved instantly. His rifle rose with mechanical grace. Scope locked onto the burst of plasma light that betrayed the alien's exact position. He didn't shoot yet. The storm was coming closer, the wind screaming harder. Dust spiraled into whirlwinds between them, slicing visibility to near zero. He could barely see his own hands, but instinct told him the alien was repositioning, trying to find higher ground. Kellen listened. The wind, the static, the hum of plasma cooling, all blended into white noise. Then, faintly, he heard it, the crunch of metal boots against loose gravel. It came from his 11 o'clock, slightly uphill. He turned his rifle and fixed the scope on the slope. Nothing, only swirling dust and the flicker of blue light through the haze. He could feel his pulse sinking with the beat of the storm. Varek crouched behind a rock ledge, steadying his breathing. The storm's interference made his sensors useless. Now it was just him and instinct. For the first time, he felt uncertainty, a whisper of something alien to his mind. Fear. He despised it. He pushed it down and focused. His enemy was human, fragile, bound by emotion, and yet surviving against all logic. He would end this. He aimed through the dust, scanning for movement. Then, faintly, a shadow. He fired. The shot exploded into the sand, but there was no scream, no sign of impact, just silence again. Then, from the other direction, a thunderous crack broke the air. A bullet tore through the storm, so precise it felt inevitable. It missed him by inches, grazing the edge of his visor. The shock wave threw him backward. For a heartbeat, he tasted the metallic tang of his own blood. His instinct screamed to move, but Kellen was already adjusting, already reloading, the rhythm of the hunt beating in his chest like a war drum. He whispered under his breath, "You feel that, don't you? That fear." It wasn't mockery, it was recognition. The line between hunter and hunted was blurring. Kellen crawled forward through the storm, moving low, silent as the wind. Each second stretched into eternity. He thought of why he still fought, not for medals or orders, but for the stubborn belief that humanity's will survive was something sacred. Varek steadied his rifle again, his mind flickering between rage and admiration. His scope flickered, revealing a faint outline, a human form kneeling beside a tank, motionless. He hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but in that fraction, Kellen's crosshairs aligned with the faint blue glow of the alien's visor. The storm roared as if the planet itself held its breath. Kellen exhaled once, slow and steady, and his finger tightened on the trigger. He didn't think, he knew. The rifle kicked, a sharp, clean motion that felt like an ending. The shot cut through the storm and vanished into the chaos. Silence followed, deep and absolute. For 30 seconds, the world stood still. Whether he had struck true or not, Kellen didn't yet know. But in that silence, one truth echoed inside him. The battle wasn't about aim. It was about endurance, and humanity had always endured. The storm eased into a low, trembling hum as the dust began to settle. The light returned in fractured rays. piercing to the haze like thin blades of gold. Kellen stayed prone, cheek pressed to the dirt, rifle steady, his heartbeat still echoing his ears. 30 seconds had passed since the shot, and the world had yet to breathe again. He kept his scope fixed on the ridge, waiting for movement, any sign of life. Nothing came. No shimmer of plasma, no reflection, no silhouette against the fading horizon. The silence stretched on, heavy and absolute. Slowly, he exhaled, his breath shaking as tension began to melt away. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a quiet realization. He'd won. Kellen rose from his cover with deliberate care, his joints stiff from the hours of stillness. The tank beside him was pocked with burns, its once proud metal skin now little more than rusted scars. He slung his rifle over his shoulder and began the slow walk toward the ridge, boots crunching over shards of glass and shell casings. Every step was deliberate, each footfall sinking into the soft dust of battlefield that had claimed too many lives. He'd made that 1,000-meter walk before, always toward the aftermath, toward the truth of what his bullet had done. As he climbed, the air thinned. Smoke drifted from the cracks in the earth where plasma had seared deep lines. When he reached the top, he found the alien sniper's perch, a narrow ledge surrounded by shattered rocks and faint scorch marks. There lay the weapon, elegant and alien, its design almost beautiful in its cruelty. The rifle's barrel still glowed faintly, heat dissipating in slow, rhythmic pulses. A few feet away, half buried in the dirt, Varek lay motionless. His armor was split by a single, precise round that had pierced straight through the chest. It was a perfect shot. Clean. Final. Kellen knelt beside the alien, his shadow falling over the still form. For a moment, he said nothing. He didn't feel triumph, only the familiar ache that came after every victory. He reached out, brushing away a layer of dust from the alien's mask. Beneath the cracked visor, Varek's eyes, large, crystalline, and strangely human in their stillness, stared upward, reflecting the dim sky. They were not filled with hate. They were calm, almost peaceful. Kellen felt something twist inside him, a quiet grief that didn't belong to enemies, but to soldiers who both done what they had to. "You were good," Kellen murmured. The words came out rough, almost reluctant. "Too good." He paused, lowering his head for a moment, offering a silent respect the way soldiers once did on Earth, when honor still meant something. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal tag, the last piece of his old unit's insignia. He placed it beside the alien's rifle. "For the ones who understood the cost," he whispered. The sky above began to change, the storm clouds breaking apart to reveal the faint shimmer of Varian's twin moons. Light washed across the battlefield, revealing the scars of war in every direction. Craters, twisted metal, broken banners of two species locked in endless conflict. For the first time, Kellen saw it all clearly. None of this had meaning anymore. Not the victories, not the kills, not even survival. What lingered instead was exhaustion, the kind that went beyond body and bone. He sat beside the fallen sniper and removed his helmet. The wind touched his face, cool and soft after hours of suffocating heat. For the first time in years, he let himself simply exist. No orders, no fear, no mission. Just the wind and the silence. His mind drifted back to his home world, to the sound of rain tapping on the tin roof of his childhood home, to laughter, to the faces of people long gone. He realized how far away humanity had come from itself. In this far corner of the galaxy, fighting an enemy he barely understood, he had become the thing he once feared, a weapon with a heartbeat. Kellen's gaze drifted back to the alien. He wondered if Varek had family, comrades, a home that once waited for his return. The thought unsettled him. He reached forward and, with quiet reverence, closed the alien's eyes. "Rest," he said softly. The wind carried the word away, as if the planet itself was listening. He gathered a handful of dirt and poured it gently over the alien's chest, a simple burial in a world that had forgotten how to honor the dead. A faint crackle sounded through his comms. "Command Row, report status." He hesitated before answering. "Target neutralized," he said finally. The silence on the other end lingered. Then came the question he always dreaded. "Any further hostiles in the area?" Kellen looked out across the wasteland. The silence stretched from horizon to horizon, broken only by the whisper of wind over ruins. "No," he said quietly. "None left worth fighting." He turned the comms off. The horizon glowed faintly with the dawn. Kellen picked up his rifle and looked once more at the alien's resting place. He took a deep breath, letting it fill him, steady him, cleanse a residue of violence that clung to his mind. "Maybe someday," he muttered, "we'll stop proving who deserves to live." As he descended the ridge, the wind picked up again, swirling dust into soft spirals that trailed behind him like fading ghosts. He walked without haste, each step echoing a little softer than the last. Behind him, the alien's rifle remained half buried, its faint light finally dimming to nothing. At the base of the hill, Kellen paused and looked back. From that distance, the ridge was just another shape in a dead landscape, one more scar among thousands. He adjusted his rifle strap and began the long walk toward the ruins of the human outpost beyond the dunes. The faint hum of distant machinery whispered through the air, but he didn't turn toward it. He wasn't going back to command. Not yet. Some battles, he knew, never ended at the trigger. He stopped once more and glanced at the horizon, where the first rays of sunlight touched the wreckage and turned the metal to gold. For a fleeting moment, it looked almost beautiful, like something reborn. Kellen smiled faintly, though his eyes stayed weary. 30 seconds, he said under his breath. That's all it took. He turned away, leaving the battlefield behind. Somewhere in the wind, it felt as if the world exhaled with him, as if both soldier and planet had finally earned a moment of peace.